Hello, welcome to today's episode of our Business Agility video podcast. Thanks for joining us today. So this is what we do every week. We throw out some topics that are relevant to business owners in Canada about how they might be more efficient in their business, whether it's using technology or even just tips and tricks of what works well in this kind of crazy time that we live in. So today's topic, it's a popular segment that we do often at the last one of the month. And what it is, it's an open forum for our audience to throw some questions at us. So I encourage you, like always, throw some questions either in the chat if you've joined us on the webinar, or on Facebook comments if you've joined us on our Facebook live stream. But we're open to questions from the audience. I know both Samantha and I have some questions that we've gathered throughout the week here. So if you don't throw some questions at us, we're going to throw some questions at you, and we're going to have a healthy debate, I guarantee, on one of them. So with that, what we're going to do, and we do every week, is we start with some quick introductions of our panelists, and then we get right into our topic. And again, like I said, the topic is going to be very free-form today, but I guarantee there's going to be a healthy debate here. So with that, I'll introduce myself. I'm Murray Quaibo. I am the president of Accurate Solutions. I'm passionate about efficient enterprise resource planning systems, or ERP software systems, and how we can deliver some huge benefit to businesses with those kinds of things. So Sam, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Samantha Knighton DeForge, and I'm the Business Solutions Specialist here with Accurate. And like Murray mentioned, today we're probably going to have one heck of a debate, and I think there's a couple of questions that are so dominant when it comes to the world of ERP. And I think the biggest one, and we've been seeing this in the past over the last several years, companies are interested in buying an ERP solution. They want this one centralized location of everything. And that's fabulous. That's great. So you say, okay, we're going to consolidate this. What are your aspects of your business? Okay, well, we run this for inventory. We run this for assets, but we don't want to change those systems. Okay, so you don't want a consolidated system. Well, no, we actually do. So how does someone put everything in one solution if you're so resistant to veer away from the two products that you have? Why do you think people do that, Murray?
I think that, well, one is it's human nature. So human nature is to resist change. So I think that if you find something that works, even if it's inefficient, and I can throw lots of examples, and even I remember when I worked back at Price Waterhouse, when it was called Price Waterhouse, we had what was called the typing pool. And what that was is about 15 people, all they did was they typed up stuff. And but you know what, that worked well. It was efficient. There was a lot of great people there that everyone loved, taking something to the typing pool. And even though it was inefficient, you had to take it there. They would literally go on a typewriter and type it up. But it was, you got a chance to chat with somebody. You had you got a chance to tell your story. You walked by the water cooler. You may have run into someone else. As inefficient as that was, it's something that people, us as humans, do. So anyway, the point being is that even, we resist change. So even if if you can drop this beautiful system, you press a button and everything is completely automated, not everyone's going to want to do that. I think that's one thing. What do you think, Sam? What do you think are reasons that people might want to not?
I don't know, and I think it comes down to people thinking that something works, and and there isn't a better way to use it, right? So I think that. And it comes back to the topic that I presented at the Supply Chain Expo, right? It comes back to that to a T. We have an inventory problem, so we're going to buy an inventory system. We have a CRM problem, so we're going to have a CRM problem. And I'm going to get to CRM here in a minute because I know it's another thing that I want to debunk today. But when we talk about if you want something consolidated, what is someone's understanding or impression? What do you expect? If you want something all in one, then you have to replace everything. And I don't like the term that used the word term all in one. I mean, that's one of the SAP suite products and fabulous branding on their part. But when you sit there and you go, okay, well, I want to buy and I want to have one centralized location of all this information. Well, you can do it. It's just it's not going to be an ERP then. You have to leverage some sort of an analytics tool, Tableau, Power BI, whatever it might be, to pull the information you want into one centralized location. Is that the right solution? From a reporting standpoint, yeah, but from an inefficiency standpoint, it's most certainly not the right way to go. When we talk about, you have an inventory system, you have an asset management system, you have a timesheet system, whatever it might be, you have an expense system. If you centralize that in one location, your business is so optimized. Take the example that I've been working on yesterday for one of our customers, Marie. I had to record a training video for one of our customers where we started in a sales quote where we created an opportunity, created an estimate for that particular customer. Once that sales opportunity was confirmed, it was converted to a sales order, at which point the sales order was created, and then we created a production order. And then we created, what do we do after that? We created a production order. We released the production order, and then that created demand in the inventory system saying, hey, you got to order some of these parts, so you got to create 50 POs for one particular project or production order because they're a project manufacturer. That is an integrated solution, and you have visibility across the board. So and then if someone wants the reporting to back that up, then you have to put it in one centralized location, or if you use a tool like Tableau or Power BI, you're simply going to get just the reporting aspect, but you still are faced with the problems of having those integrations, whether it's people or an actual program doing it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. If you have a reporting tool, it can pull the data together. But can you imagine, if you have one system that might be doing your work orders and another system that's doing your invoicing? Well, it's really easy to have two different customer IDs, or even the customer spelling slightly different in one than the other. So then all of a sudden you have a data mismatch, and then of course you can reconcile that mismatch through time and effort and programming. But all of a sudden right there, one little variable, and it's inefficient, and you've forced some development. And then you can imagine how from day one you have one difference in one customer. Well, all of a sudden day two, you got difference in inventory items and customer IDs and contacts, and it just kind of escalates from there and gets a little bit messier each day.
I think it gets really messy. And the reason I think people do this is they don't want to commit to a yearly subscription. We're going to go with a solution that costs us $10,000 a year for inventory. We're going to pay $10,000 a year for accounting. But then let's say it's costing you $20,000. Let's say just the subscriptions or just the software maintenance is costing you $20,000 to run in your business. And let's say an Acumatica ERP solution is costing $30,000. Well, you're going to naturally say, well, why would I pay an extra $10,000 a year? Well, you're also not thinking big picture. It's not about the cost of the software. And we say this, and then people look at us like we have six heads, but you have to think about it objectively. If you have 8 people in data entry, you are paying those people $50,000 a year, let's say $40,000 or $50,000 a year, to enter that data from one system into another, whether it's accounting, whether it's payroll, whether it's reconciling expenses or timesheets, project management, whatever it might be. So it's those indirect costs, those non-tangible or invisible costs that I don't think most businesses are seeing.
Well, and I think, and when you think about invisible, I bet you won't find too many companies that say, well, we don't have 8 people that are entering this stuff. But what you do have, so I think that's, they would say, wow, we only have 1 person or 2 people in our accounting department, which might be true. But in reality, you have the owner, the CEO, the president, and the sales manager or the operations manager or the field manager that spend, I don't know how much of their day, 30%, 40%, 60% of their time in data entry or doing something or in and around that. So you don't have those maybe admin people, but you have your highest value people spending time with this, and then there's where that real cost comes in. But it's an invisible one almost, because you go, well, no, he's the general manager. He's not an accounts payable clerk. But if in reality what he's doing is taking calls from vendors and customers going, where's my money, or where are we at with this, or can I have a copy of my invoice? Well, then he's become an accountant anyway. But
yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of problems when it comes to really helping a business understand even the word automation. It's not about, eliminating jobs, or it's about eliminating inefficiencies, right? And it comes back to the sort of, you called it, I was going to use an analogy today, and I most certainly am. My farming analogy, right, that I used in my digital transformation series. Back in the day, you used to have a 100-acre field and you had 150 people, let's say, tending to this field, right? You had 100, or let's just say 100 people manually hoeing this field and going from there. Then with time and the evolution, we've had animals pulling these plows to tend to these fields. Then with the Industrial Revolution came along something called the tractor. Now, if you were to tell a farmer, well, why would you buy a tractor when you can just hire 100 people to do it? Nobody would say that, not in Canada. And depending on where you live, it might be different. But I would say if you told a farmer to hire 100 people instead of using a combine or a tractor, what do you think that farmer would say?
Yeah, you'd think you're, what kind of crop are you cultivating is what he would say. And maybe I think that's an easy one. But then if you think about, well, okay, what about, you got a tractor? I think you got me out there. You got me there. You sold me on a tractor. But not only do I need a tractor, I need a tractor that costs $750,000 because, and so now that's kind of where we're at. So now we've got into a digital transformation of farming. So we're using a machine, but would then actually take that up a few notches. And you know that there's some business cases for tractors that do cost that much money, and they have some automation. They've got GPS tracking systems so that they can actually, get more done with less. So not only does it cost a lot, but there's business benefit to do that. And that's just taking it up another notch at scale. And so then that becomes, now you're going, okay, you've got a little bit more of a complicated return on investment type analysis, but it is compelling. Again,
well, let's quantify it. Okay, minimum wage is what, $15 an hour. Let's just say that was what the example was. $15 an hour times 12, let's say they're working 12-hour days, comes out to $180. We multiply that by 100, we have $18,000 a day is what this is costing the farmer. Now let's multiply that by 365. Well, no, let's just say 350 because people are entitled to holidays. That's costing you $6 million at $300,000 in 1 year.
Yeah.
So it's a wash. You've paid off the tractor in let's say probably a quarter.
Well, you could buy a lot of small tractors for that. You still haven't got me to the $750,000 tractor, but then, and so in that case, now we're talking about efficiencies and throughput and number of acres per hour, all that kind of stuff. And then, that, so then
I just did simple math. $15 an hour, 12-hour days, 100 employees, and it's costing you $6 million, $300,000 a year. So your tractor is going to pay it for itself pretty quickly.
Yes. So then, okay. Can we switch gears here a little bit? Because I think we have to. There's another question, and this one was something that came up with me earlier this week. And so the question is this: what is an ERP system? Simple question, right? It's a simple question, and we live and breathe ERP software every day of our lives. But yet I was posed with the question, what is an ERP system? And I have to say, I was a little taken aback because I go, well, don't you know? Doesn't everybody know? At least, not maybe everybody naturally lives there, but if you're in business, or if you're a business consultant or advisor, that is something that I would expect to be pretty easily understood. And yet I was faced with going, well, hey, this is pretty obvious. But then I said, okay, let me take you to our website. I'm going to show you. And so we have, I don't know how many different blog posts and articles and presentations, videos, checklists, and everything about ERP system. But to be honest, I didn't find one that I thought was going to answer that question as simply as possible. And I thought, well, man, we've really, we as a service provider haven't done a good service to the community to really, really simply define what an ERP system, and I can point to probably almost 100 pieces of content that do speak to the point directly, but it takes a different flavor based on your role, CEO versus CFO versus IT manager versus sales manager, so there's, what's your role is different. So what an ERP system is different if you're an ops manager versus the CFO. Anyway, the content is by role. It's by industry. Again, an ERP system is different if you're a wholesale distributor than if you're a service company. So again, same goals, but different types of business requirements. So naturally, we're always into this kind of a lengthy discussion as to what an ERP system is. But what I embarked upon was writing a really, really simple article that started with about 5 points, and now it's gotten to about a page long, and I go, oh crap, I've missed the mark again. But let me ask you, Sam, if someone said to you, what's an ERP system, what would you say?
Oh, I hate that acronym.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a horrible acronym. I think we
Yeah.
need something new, and we're definitely seeing it in the market.
Yeah.
I like to use the word business solution more than anything. I think it's exactly what it means. It is a solution to a business. Now, what does that mean? Because most businesses don't think that they have a problem, right? But I think that when it comes to an ERP system, the way I like to explain it to even my friends who have absolutely zero clue what I do for work day in and day out, I say it runs a company operations from top to bottom. It centralizes everything in one area, and it acts as the glue and the binding agent to maintain constant communication between every aspect of a business, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's distribution, inventory management. It does everything, is usually what I say.
But so then, and then which I think that's a great definition. But if you're talking to,
so how about I write the article on the website?
well, but if you're talking to, pick the role. If you're talking to, say, a sales manager, and you say this can do everything, well, don't you think they would go, oh, okay, well, that CNC machine in my shop can make everything. Or they might go, the superstore sells everything,
Mhm.
but you know what I mean? Everything almost by definition means nothing. And you go,
Yeah.
and so to me, it's context based. Hey, look at that. I think it does require a definition, but what I often go to is to try to put it in the context of the person asking the question, and then sometimes I go to some examples. But before we get to the examples, we have some comments by some audience, the audience here. Let me just see what they are. Okay, hey, actually, yeah, thanks. We have a comment from M. Craig. Thank you for your comment. And his comment would be to say, I guess I would say it is an integrated system, general ledger, AR, AP, manufacturing, all parts. And then one step, reduce entry, let's focus on your business. And I think that those are the comments. And I, again, totally agree with all that. I think that integrated system, that's always part of the definition. At its core, general ledger, AP, AR, yes, accounting is at its core, always. But then you get into the thing, is it an accounting system, and so on. I love the business benefits of one step and reducing entry. So thanks for that comment, because that's exactly what we're looking for to make things more efficient. But it is based on the business. So what I wanted to explore some examples, because I think that if people say, depending on how deep you can have a conversation, and often if we've already now talked about it for 5 minutes, I don't know, people's eyes start to glaze over.
I think
Maybe they've ordered another drink, and all of a sudden you kind of go, oh geez, did I really want to answer? But I if you can start to give some examples, quickly, that can start to help people frame it a little bit better. So then here's what I say. I say that ERP systems, some common examples of ERP systems at the low end are things like QuickBooks and Sage 50, or newer products such as Xero and FreshBooks. These are low-level or entry-level accounting systems, and that's what I would define as kind of a low-tier ERP systems. And then at the high tier, we have products such as SAP and Oracle Financials. In the middle tier, and that's where we play, there's lots of products from Microsoft Dynamics, Sage, NetSuite, and ours, which is Acumatica. But then the question is QuickBooks an ERP system? And that's so I've just defined it as an ERP system, and the reason is because it's easy. People know what QuickBooks is. But there's a lot of people out there that say, well, QuickBooks isn't an ERP system. So there's another question, and I go, okay, Sam, what do you think? Is QuickBooks an ERP system?
I think I should switch this to vodka if you want me to answer that question. No, I don't think QuickBooks is an ERP system, and I've just thought of another analogy based on your Superstore example. We talk about ERP solutions containing everything, okay? The way I would say this whole scenario looks is you're going to Superstore, you grab a basket. That's your accounting system. Whatever you want to put in that basket to build your recipe of your business, let's say you're making pad thai, whatever it might be. Your basket is the financials. Financials are always going to be achieved in any modern ERP solution, depending on whatever your business might be. That's your accounting aspect. And then what you're deciding to make for dinner, let's say pad thai, you're going to grab your noodles, you're going to grab your snow peas, you're going to grab your, peanut sauce, whatever, is inside the basket. If you're looking at QuickBooks is the basket, but it's not an ERP in my perspective, because you have to trap the stuff around the basket in order for it to be an ERP, to build a recipe. You can kind of do it, but it's not easy.
So you would say in that example, ERP is the pad thai versus the kind of the entry-level system and being either the basket or maybe some of the...
I would say that ERP system is one person holding the basket, that's the person holding the basket and all the stuff in the basket. QuickBooks, in my opinion, is even having one basket and then having 8 different people carry each ingredient in a separate basket for you to check out.
So well, one of the interesting thing, so if you type into Google right now and go, is QuickBooks an ERP system? The top answer will come up and say no. And if you start to navigate on QuickBooks' website, and there's an easy link there, and then it starts this, you'll find a post that refers something like QuickBooks Enterprise, and if you start to navigate that, it'll say it offers an ERP like functionality, or it's similar to ERP. And then what it clearly does, what QuickBooks is clearly doing is clearly trying to distance themselves from the connotation of being an ERP. But yet what it's saying is that QuickBooks Enterprise delivers ERP quality functionality. And to me, I think they're splitting hairs, because I think that all I would try to do, if I simplify it in my world, all I would say is that yes, QuickBooks is an ERP system, but it's at the low end, and nothing against QuickBooks. I think QuickBooks works perfectly well for smaller businesses and businesses that need just some really basic functionality. And I think it's an excellent solution, and I would characterize all the entry-level systems. They are inexpensive, easy to get up and running, and they are very, very good for what they're intended to do. And so all I would say is that they are ERP, but they're at the low end. And then to me, the difference, as you start to say, okay, that works for a certain level, we could split hairs around if it's an ERP system or not. But then to me, the distinction is when you need to know, is QuickBooks or Xero or FreshBooks, is it doing it for me, or do I need to move into something a little bit more? It's what level of real-time functionality do I need? Do I need that system to manage my operations in real time. And that then is a trigger to say, okay, I might need to look at something more. So, and then in that case, what are real-time operations? And it does depend on the nature of the business. So if you're selling inventory, you're buying and selling and stocking and issuing inventory, that's the nature of your business. And so therefore you need to have an inventory system that's able to, do purchase orders, receive goods, scan stuff in and around, sell it, have multiple price levels, and get shipments out the door and invoice customers all in real time. And so that's ERP functionality. And oftentimes, QuickBooks can do a lot of that, but in some cases it can't do enough of it. And that's all to me. Again, I would say that, yeah, it is an ERP system, but it's not as real time as you start to climb up the ladder as others.
Yeah, and I would say it's not. I would say the people who are doing the manual entry are the ERP system.
And that's actually a really common thread, is that, so it's not just people, but you usually find in that QuickBooks scenario, it either is people or actually spreadsheets. You get, people that are they're not actually, even though QuickBooks might be the accounting system, but the actual system they're using is Excel or some other kind of a manual process, and that really is the system. So yeah, you're right.
I think that QuickBooks, we've seen businesses use QuickBooks in very creative ways, and along with that, we've seen them use Excel in very, very creative ways. I've seen some things done in Excel that have just been absolutely fabulous, like good for the companies. But again, it comes down to, I look at ERP as the binding agent. I feel like this is something that has to centralize business, because otherwise you're just running an accounting system with multiple other systems, whether it's spreadsheets or whether it's something else, whether it's an asset management, whether it's an inventory system, whether it's warehouse management, whatever it is, you're running multiple systems segregated. And the people that are entering that information from one system into another are a chain of people that cause that ERP to exist.
So
the mentality of an ERP, so to speak.
So what I like about that is, because actually in your definitely, you just kind of shared about the ERP system, it's not just the software. And I think that's actually key, is that the ERP system there's a software component that in some cases it's just accounting, but the system includes the people and really the processes in and around it, which could be manual or it could be reliant on one person that, hey, Joe is the shipper. Joe just, anytime stuff needs to be shipped, it goes to Joe and he ships it. Well, if it's all in his head around who gets to be shipped and, what documents get created, then really Joe in that example is that component of the ERP system.
Mm-hmm. No, I think, like, I always come back to it. It all comes back to digital transformation, always digitally transitioning, whether or not you have, an actual defined ERP. And when we talk about ERP, what does it stand for? Enterprise Resource Planning. Well, that middle word, resource, I think is really what gives the entire acronym a lot of ambiguity, because resource could be people, resource could be materials, resource could be warehousing, resource can be anything. So that's why I think that, maybe it was a good word for them to use to centralize an entire business. But I think that, I've always looked at ERP solutions, whether, and I don't like the word ERP, I know, and I do and I don't. Murray's kind of convinced me to not like it, but I do like the word business solution, because I think it speaks to a lot of what a company has as far as mistakes, inefficiencies, redundancies goes, and then finding a solution for it. And I think the one thing, I know we've got 2 minutes that we have left here, Murray, but I think the one thing is really just, people have to professionally develop. Your business has to do the same thing. It's not about just dropping in technology. It's not about dropping in a tool and hitting a button and making it all work. I think what it really comes down to is, this is not something a person would just give up on. You go to university and then what, like you don't want to learn anymore, you don't do anything. That's not how it works. And technology is working the same way. Business solutions work the same way. They take investment. When I made an analogy a few weeks ago on LinkedIn, I play the piano. Well, running a business and not doing anything or transitioning would be like playing the exact same piano song over and over for 10 years and expecting to get better. you're not going to get better if you don't challenge yourself, and you're not going to get better if you don't challenge your business. You have to push your business to grow in order to make more money.
Well, I think, I think that's a great thought. I've often said that kind of thing. And then if we think about some of the emerging technologies, think about robotics, for example. And if in the warehouse of the future, and we're actually there now, you know, there's a lot of, you know, large companies that are using robotics today in their warehouses to pick stuff, to you know, pack it and ship it and things like that. So, but would you say in that case, is the robot or the robotics, is that your ERP system? No, all it is it's an actor, it's a device that's feeding into it. And again, so you know, that's just a component of it. So
it's
I
the
do
wine
like
that you get with your pad thai.
Ah, yes. I do like your, the closing thought I would have is that I do like your thoughts around the resources. The system includes not just a piece of software, but components in and around that involve people and processes, and in some cases, devices.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, we are right at 2:30, so we are time to wrap up today. But thank you all for joining us. Hopefully next week we actually, I think, have Kent Bean joining us from 91 Business Group, and we're going to be sort of talking about what to expect coming in out of 2020, going into 2021. And I think we're going to be having a drink for that one, right, Murray?
Yeah.
I think so. So be sure to
Sounds
join
like
us then.
Good.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.